The night felt ordinary enough to be forgettable. Lauren Burk stepped out into the Auburn campus darkness, her breath faint in the cool air, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Classes were done. Home was close. She reached into her bag and wrapped her fingers around her keys, the metal cool, familiar. Somewhere nearby, a streetlight flickered, buzzing softly, as if struggling to stay awake. Her footsteps echoed on the pavement. Too loud. Too alone. Lauren slowed without knowing why. That instinctive pause people feel before they understand they should be afraid. She glanced over her shoulder. Empty walkway. Trees shifting in the breeze. Nothing else. She exhaled and kept moving. Behind her, a shape separated itself from the darkness. He watched her for a moment, measuring distance, timing, resolve. His hand dipped toward his waistband. Cold steel waited there, patient. This was not a moment of rage or panic. It was a decision already made. Lauren's car came into view. Relief loosened her shoulders. She pressed the unlock button. The headlights flashed once, briefly illuminating the parking lot. In that flash, she sensed movement. Too close. "Hey," a man's voice said. She turned. He was already there. The gun came up smoothly, practiced. Not shaking. Not rushed. "Don't scream," he said quietly. "Get in the car." Her mind resisted the words, searching for a different explanation, a mistake, a misunderstanding. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The gun didn't waver. The world narrowed to the black circle of the barrel and the pounding in her ears. "Now," he said. She nodded, once. Her hands trembled as she opened the door. He slid in behind her, the smell of metal and sweat filling the car. The door shut. The locks clicked down. It was a small sound. Final. He told her to drive. The campus slipped past the windows, familiar buildings turning strange under the weight of fear. Lauren's thoughts raced ahead of the moment. Someone would notice. Someone had to notice. She looked for people, for lights, for anything that meant safety. There was nothing. He talked while she drove. Calm. Detached. Questions mixed with commands. He took her wallet, her phone. Each item removed another layer of protection. Each mile stretched the night thinner. At a stretch of dark road, Lauren made a choice. The kind no one should ever have to make. She opened the door. The car swerved. Tires screamed. The man shouted, sudden anger cracking his control. "Stop." She didn't. She pushed herself out into the rushing dark, the asphalt tearing at her skin. For one impossible second, it almost worked. Then the gun fired. The sound exploded into the night. The car slowed. Stopped. He stood over her, breathing hard, the gun still pointed down. Headlights washed over her face, her eyes open, shock frozen there. He left her on the road and drove away. Minutes later, sirens cut through the silence. Too late. At the hospital, doctors fought for her life, but the night had already decided the ending. Days later, police would trace the gun, the card transactions. They would put a name to the shadow. In court, they would say words like evidence, intent, sentence. None of it could rewind the moment when a flickering streetlight failed to keep the dark away. And on that campus, every quiet walkway would feel different forever. Before the incident, before Lauren was murdered. By daylight, Lauren Burk blended easily into the rhythm of Auburn University. She laughed loudly, walked quickly, lived like someone who believed tomorrow was guaranteed. Friends described her as dependable, the kind of person who showed up early and stayed late. Professors remembered her name. At home, her family spoke of her with pride. First year in college. Big plans. No enemies. No secrets. On March 4, 2008, Auburn, Alabama looked exactly like it always did. Brick dorms glowing warm in the afternoon sun. Students cutting across walkways, backpacks bouncing, conversations overlapping. Lauren moved through it all with ease, stopping to talk, smiling without effort. "See you later," a friend called as they split at the path. Lauren waved back. "Yeah. Text me." It was the last casual promise she would ever make. As evening settled in, the campus shifted. Crowds thinned. Doors closed. The noise softened into distant echoes. Lauren returned to her routine, unaware that the night ahead had already chosen her. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't distracted. She followed the same paths she always had. The same dorm exits. The same parking area. The same sense of safety that comes from familiarity. Security lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere, music drifted from an open window. Life continued around her, indifferent. On-screen text fades in, March 4, 2008, Auburn, Alabama. Lauren checked her phone. No missed calls. No warnings. She tucked it away and adjusted her bag on her shoulder. The campus felt calm. Predictable. Harmless. What she couldn't see was how invisible danger really works. It doesn't announce itself. It waits. It blends in. It chooses moments when no one is looking. And while Lauren walked forward, thinking only of getting home, another story was quietly unfolding behind her. One she would never get the chance to escape. Courtney Larrell Lockhart was a man shaped by choices and circumstances that left him on the edge of the law. At 23, his life already carried the weight of dishonor and failure. A dishonorable discharge from the military had stripped him of direction and discipline, leaving anger and restlessness in its wake. Friends, such as they were, remembered him as unpredictable, someone who flirted with trouble and often crossed the line. Local police files painted a darker portrait: petty theft, minor assaults, a history of running afoul of the law. To some, he was simply unlucky. To others, he was a danger waiting for the right moment. That night, he moved quietly through the shadows of Auburn, Alabama, blending in, invisible to the casual observer. His dark clothing muted his presence, and his short black hair and medium build allowed him to melt into the night. Every movement was deliberate, calculated. His eyes, sharp and scanning, missed nothing. There was a coldness there, a calm detachment that suggested he had rehearsed this before, though no one could know what was coming. In a dimly lit room, he paced slowly. His fingers brushed over the cold metal of a small handgun. He considered the streets, the campus, the students scattered like unknowing chess pieces. He muttered under his breath, a soft cadence, as if talking to himself. "Tonight, someone's going to teach me something. Tonight." The camera pans to a generic mugshot from previous arrests, a stark, emotionless face with deep-set eyes, a small scar above his eyebrow, lips pressed tight. This is the man who would intersect with Lauren's life in the most violent and irreversible way. A figure unseen by most, unnoticed, yet poised at the edge of an ordinary campus night. Back on campus, Lauren continued her walk, unaware of the presence that had been shadowing her steps. She thought of homework, of text messages, of friends she would see in a few minutes. She didn't notice the distant movement across the lot, the figure standing still, watching, calculating. Courtney's head tilted slightly, scanning her posture, memorizing her route, imagining how easily she could be forced off the path of her normal life. Every step she took was anticipated. Every pause measured. "Perfect," he whispered under his breath, voice low and steady, almost casual. There was no fear in his tone. Just the certainty of a plan forming. His past, filled with missteps, criminal charges, and a lifetime of small defeats, had led him here. Not by accident, not by coincidence, but by the precise alignment of opportunity and desire. He had become a man shaped to exploit a single moment. And tonight, that moment was approaching. Lauren's bag shifted on her shoulder. She checked her phone absent-mindedly. The campus was quiet, too quiet. Somewhere in the shadows, Courtney adjusted his grip on the handgun, his eyes locked on her figure, tracing her movements, calculating the instant she would be within reach. Every heartbeat felt ordinary. To him, it was the calm before the storm. And that storm was coming, with the force of inevitability, into the life of an unsuspecting young woman who had no idea her normal night was about to turn into a nightmare. The night had deepened, and Auburn's campus was nearly silent, save for the occasional distant laugh or rumble of a car. Lauren Burke's footsteps echoed against the asphalt, each tap sharp in the quiet. She fumbled in her bag, pulling out her keys. Her mind was already shifting toward the comfort of her dorm, unaware that someone had been watching her for minutes, hidden in the shadows. Courtney Larrell Lockhart stepped forward as the gap between them closed. His dark clothes blended with the night, his short black hair barely catching the flicker of a streetlight. His eyes locked on her, cold, calculated, unmoving. In his hand, the gun was steady, trained like a predator waiting for the precise moment. Lauren froze when she noticed him, her stomach knotting. He raised the gun just enough for her to see, his voice low, calm, and commanding. "Get in the car." Her voice caught in her throat. What? Now, he snapped, impatient but controlled. His eyes never left hers. Lauren hesitated, a pulse of fear racing through her. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the gun told another story. Trembling, she obeyed, sliding into the driver's seat of her own car. The metallic click of the lock sounded like the closing of a cage. Lockhart climbed in behind her, his presence oppressive, filling the confined space with menace. The smell of gunmetal and sweat hit her immediately. "Drive," he ordered. His tone was calm, almost conversational, but there was a sharp edge underneath that Lauren felt deep in her chest. She started the car, hands shaking. The campus lights blurred past the windshield, familiar buildings turning strange in the suffocating night. He leaned forward slightly, his hand brushing against hers when she tried to shift the gears, a subtle reminder of control. "Don't try anything," he warned. They drove in silence for several minutes, each turn pulling them further from the campus, into stretches of dark, nearly empty roads. Lauren's mind raced. She considered every escape route, every hidden footpath, every possible scream. The night seemed infinite, the shadows stretching longer with every heartbeat. Her breath came in shallow gasps. Then, instinct took over. As they slowed at a curve, she yanked the door handle. "No!" Lockhart shouted, leaning forward suddenly, his voice a whip crack in the confined car. Lauren threw herself out, asphalt scraping her hands and arms, heart pounding violently. The car swerved, tires screaming against the asphalt. Lockhart fired once, the sound deafening in the night. She hit the ground, stunned, her body instinctively curling, a shockwave of fear anchoring her in place. The car slowed, then accelerated, leaving her lying on the deserted stretch of Alabama State Route 147. Her breaths were ragged, pain flaring in her limbs, the night absolute around her. Lockhart's figure vanished into the darkness, his steps measured and controlled, leaving behind the evidence of his presence, the abandoned vehicle, the stolen belongings, the chaos of what had just occurred. The night swallowed him, indifferent to the destruction left behind. Sirens eventually pierced the silence, faint at first, growing louder as police responded to frantic calls. Shadows of officers, flashlights slicing through the dark, approached Lauren's form. Medics rushed to her side, voices calm but urgent, trying to pull her from the brink. Every second stretched longer, every heartbeat fragile, as if time itself had paused to witness the horror. Inside the car, every detail remained, keys on the floor, her backpack slightly askew, the faint scent of fear lingering in the fabric. It was a small, intimate record of the terror she had endured, a snapshot of control violently stolen and briefly reclaimed, then shattered again. In the shadows beyond the road, Lockhart's retreating figure was just a silhouette, but it carried the weight of his previous crimes and the certainty of his next. For Lauren, that night had begun as ordinary and ended as a nightmare that would etch itself into memory, law reports, and every quiet campus walkway for years to come. The horror wasn't just in the violence, but in the terrifying ordinariness of the moment that preceded it. The night's chaos didn't end with the abandoned stretch of Alabama State Route 147. Courtney Larrell Lockhart emerged from the darkness with calm efficiency, slipping into the driver's seat of Lauren's car. The adrenaline that had driven the abduction didn't waver, it sharpened his focus. He drove without haste, scanning for open ATMs, knowing exactly what he wanted: money, control, dominance. At the first ATM, he withdrew small amounts with Lauren's debit card, each transaction leaving a faint digital trail that would later be crucial. He didn't linger, he was methodical, precise. Every stop, every motion was deliberate. The thrill of control and the necessity of escape danced in his eyes, cold and calculating. He muttered under his breath, a quiet rhythm: keep it clean, keep it clean. Once his hands were no longer bound by routine, he returned to Auburn University under the cloak of night. The campus was nearly empty, dorms silent, streetlights flickering weakly against the darkness. He parked Lauren's car, unlocked the doors, and with a small container of gasoline, set the vehicle ablaze. Flames licked the metal, smoke curling into the sky, as if consuming the evidence of his crime. Walking away, he didn't glance back. Detachment was part of his process, a ritual that erased responsibility in his own mind. That night didn't end there. Lockhart committed additional minor thefts, small acts that revealed a pattern of impulsive and dangerous behavior. Each step confirmed to him that the night belonged to him, a sequence of power and control stretching into the small hours. Meanwhile, at Auburn University, the first whispers of alarm had begun. Police responded to the fire, finding the smoldering car. Investigators moved with urgency, cataloging every detail. The keys, Lauren's backpack, and other belongings were carefully bagged as evidence. Detectives interviewed witnesses, reconstructed the timeline, and traced ATM activity. Forensic teams began to piece together the puzzle. Security cameras, card transactions, and the residual traces left in the car all painted a path straight to Lockhart. Within hours, officers received a traffic alert: a vehicle matching the description of Lauren's car, driven by a man with a criminal record, was moving along a nearby route. Patrol cars engaged, lights flashing, sirens slicing through the night. Lockhart's escape was cut short. Pulled over, he exuded the same calm, controlled demeanor, hands slowly out of sight, eyes unblinking. The officers approached cautiously, weapons ready but restrained. A search of the vehicle revealed the handgun, Lauren's personal items, and traces linking him to the earlier abduction. He didn't resist. Perhaps he understood the inevitability of capture. Detectives would later recount the case in interviews and reenactments. "We had the evidence immediately," one voiceover explained: ATM withdrawals, surveillance footage, fingerprints, the gun, everything pointed directly to him. Another added, "It was methodical, but also reckless. He left too much behind, and that's what got him caught." In the interrogation room, Lockhart remained composed, emotionless, denying what seemed undeniable. Each question, each pause, added to the procedural tension, revealing the slow, deliberate unraveling of a night that had begun with terror and ended in arrest. The balance of fear, evidence, and law had finally shifted, and the justice machine had caught up. The campus, once silent and unsuspecting, began to breathe again. Lauren's name echoed in news reports and conversations, her survival and resilience slowly reclaiming the narrative from the chaos that Lockhart had left behind. But for anyone who studied the night, the pattern of Lockhart's actions served as a chilling reminder: danger could be deliberate, calculated, and terrifyingly close to home, yet ultimately, even the most meticulous criminal could not outrun the consequences of his choices. The night air remained heavy and tense over Auburn, Alabama, long after the chaos of the abduction. Police cars with flashing red and blue lights converged on the campus, sirens cutting through the darkness, illuminating the smoke still curling from the smoldering remnants of Lauren Burke's car. Officers moved quickly, methodically, wearing gloves as they photographed, bagged, and catalogued each piece of evidence. The keys lay on the asphalt, a silent testament to the terror that had unfolded, while Lauren's backpack rested carefully in an evidence bag, every zipper and strap meticulously documented. The gun, small but deadly, was carefully lifted with forceps, fingerprint dusting revealing the prints that would become central to the case. Detective Marcus Hill, a man in his early 40s with a calm but commanding presence, leaned over the hood of a patrol vehicle, flashlight scanning the charred interior of the car. His voice, calm but precise, carried over the quiet of the campus. "Every item tells a story," he said. "The keys, the backpack, the gun, they're more than objects. They're pieces of a timeline. They lead us straight to him." Meanwhile, patrol units tracked the movements of a vehicle that matched Lauren's stolen car. It had been caught on traffic cameras, its path moving away from the campus in a direct line toward the city. Officers positioned themselves along the route, lights flashing in the darkness, sirens silent for stealth. The anticipation was taut, every passing car was scrutinized, every shadow considered a potential threat. When the vehicle finally appeared, officers executed a classic traffic stop. Patrol cars flanked it, lights flashing red and blue, creating a corridor of illumination. Larrell Lockhart remained seated behind the wheel, hands resting calmly on the steering wheel, eyes unblinking, face expressionless. For a moment, the officers hesitated, the tension in the air almost palpable, then moved in, instructing him to step out. Lockhart complied, slow, deliberate, composed. There was no panic, no flinch, only an eerie calm that contrasted sharply with the adrenaline coursing through the officer's veins. One officer carefully opened the vehicle door, revealing the contents inside. The gun lay on the passenger seat, the backpack containing Lauren's belongings beside it, everything meticulously recorded. Every item corroborated the timeline of events and the methodical nature of his crime. Detectives conducted interviews, later reenacted in video footage for public release. The evidence was overwhelming, voiceover explained, intercut with cinematic reenactments. ATM withdrawals, surveillance footage, fingerprints on the gun and items, everything pointed directly to him. Another detective added, he had been meticulous in some ways, but reckless in others. He left behind too much, and that's what got him caught. In the interrogation room, Lockhart sat across from two detectives, his posture rigid but calm. His expression remained neutral, almost rehearsed. Questions were posed slowly, deliberately. Each answer, or lack thereof, added tension. "We know where you've been," one detective said, sliding a photograph of Lauren's abandoned car across the table. Lockhart's eyes flicked for a fraction of a second, then returned to neutral, unblinking. The room was silent except for the low hum of fluorescent lights, the soft scribbling of notes, and the occasional soft intonation of the detectives pressing for details. Outside, the campus and streets slowly began to exhale. The immediate danger was contained. Evidence had been collected, the perpetrator was in custody, and the procedural wheels of justice were beginning to turn. But the meticulous documentation, the cameras capturing every step of the investigation, and the painstaking work of the detectives ensured that the story of that night would be preserved, examined, and retold. Even as Lockhart remained silent in the interrogation room, the weight of his actions was undeniable. The forensic evidence, Lauren's backpack, the gun, her personal items, the smoldering car, all testified against him. In the following hours and days, the investigation would unfold into a public case, providing clarity, accountability, and a measure of justice for the chaos he had unleashed. Detective Hill would later recount in an interview, it wasn't just about catching him. It was about ensuring Lauren's story was heard, that the evidence told the truth, and that justice had a chance to prevail. That's what law enforcement does. One piece at a time, we build the full picture. And tonight, we had every piece we needed. The tension of the night lingered, but the capture marked a turning point. What began as terror had moved toward order. The campus lights, the sirens, the forensic teams, and the diligent detectives all converged to close the night on a note of procedural triumph. Yet the shadow of the crime, the fear and suspense of what had occurred, would echo for years to come in the memory of Auburn University and the community that witnessed the horrors of that fateful night. The courtroom was tense, the air thick with anticipation as the trial of Courtney Larrell Lockhart entered its final days. Reporters jostled in the back, cameras angled for the perfect shot, while the jury sat stiffly, notebooks open, expressions serious and somber. Lauren Burke's family occupied the front row, faces pale but resolute, holding one another's hands tightly as the proceedings began. Every eye in the room was fixed on the man at the center of it all, Lockhart. He remained composed, emotionless, his dark eyes scanning the courtroom with a calculated calm. The prosecutor rose first, a seasoned woman with a commanding presence, her voice clear and unwavering. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, "this is a case of deliberate, cold-blooded murder, of kidnapping, and of theft. The evidence presented over these past weeks is overwhelming. Fingerprints, ATM withdrawals, surveillance footage, eyewitness testimony, every piece points directly to Courtney Larrell Lockhart as the man responsible for the terror inflicted on Lauren Burke." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "No one deserves the fear he instilled, and justice demands accountability." Lockhart's defense attorney attempted to challenge the narrative, questioning motives and the reliability of certain witnesses. "You've heard the allegations," he said, voice measured, "but you must separate speculation from fact. My client maintains his innocence on charges of attempted sexual assault. These claims have no supporting evidence and are not part of what you should consider for this verdict." The courtroom fell silent as the jury filed out to deliberate. Outside, news crews captured reactions from Lauren's family. Her father's voice, quivering yet firm, echoed in a brief clip, "We just want justice for our daughter. She was a bright, loving girl. No one should ever endure what she went through." Her mother added, "We're relieved it's finally in the hands of those who can hold him accountable." Hours passed. When the jury returned, tension rippled through the courtroom like an electric current. The foreman stood, voice steady, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Courtney Larrell Lockhart, guilty of capital murder, kidnapping, and robbery. We find him not guilty of attempted rape." The gavel struck, echoing through the chamber. Murmurs swept through the spectators as Lockhart's expression remained unchanged, a mask of calm over any hint of emotion. The sentencing phase was immediate. The jury recommended life imprisonment, yet the judge, after considering the gravity of the crimes and the premeditation involved, imposed the ultimate penalty. "Courtney Larrell Lockhart," the judge intoned, "for the capital murder of Lauren Burke and the accompanying crimes, you are hereby sentenced to death by lethal injection." The words reverberated through the courtroom, heavy, final, and unyielding. Lockhart's attorney rose, eyes flicking toward his client. "Your Honor, we intend to appeal," he said, voice clipped. Lockhart himself remained silent, expression unreadable, absorbing the verdict with the same calm detachment that had defined him throughout the case. Outside the courthouse, news crews broadcast the outcome live. "Justice has been served," a reporter declared, camera panning over the Burke family, somber but relieved. After weeks of testimony and meticulous evidence presentation, the jury and judge have ensured that Courtney Lockhart faces the full consequences of his actions. Detectives who had worked the case shared their reflections in recorded interviews. Detective Marcus Hill, voice calm but edged with emotion, recounted, "From the moment we began tracking him to the day of his arrest, every piece of evidence had to be precise. The forensic work, the witness statements, the surveillance, it all had to fit together. Seeing the jury and judge deliver justice for Lauren was the only closure we could hope for." The courtroom emptied slowly. Lockhart was led away, handcuffed, expression still unreadable. Lauren's parents remained seated for a moment, staring ahead, allowing themselves a quiet sigh, absorbing the relief mingled with grief. They knew the verdict could never erase what had happened, but it marked the moment where justice, painstakingly pursued, had caught up. Outside, the campus of Auburn University was quiet. Streetlights flickered as if to punctuate the solemnity of the moment. The shadow of terror that had once lurked in the empty walkways had been replaced by a sense of resolution, a reminder that even in the darkest acts, methodical pursuit of truth and justice could prevail. For Lauren Burk, her story had been told, her voice honored, and the man responsible held fully accountable. The campus of Auburn University, once a quiet place of study and camaraderie, slowly began to transform in the months after Lauren Burk's murder. Streetlights were replaced with brighter, motion-sensor lamps, walkways were widened and better patrolled, and the university installed emergency call boxes at regular intervals. Students, once wary of the dark corners of campus, began to notice a subtle sense of reassurance. Even as fear lingered in memory, the institution took deliberate steps to prevent a tragedy like Lauren's from repeating. Lauren's family, still mourning but determined to honor her legacy, established a scholarship in her name. The Burk Scholarship for Academic Excellence at Auburn University provided financial support to students who demonstrated resilience, leadership, and commitment to their community. In press conferences, her father spoke softly but firmly, Lauren was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. This scholarship ensures her spirit lives on in those who carry her values forward. Her mother added, voice steady with emotion, we cannot bring her back, but we can make sure her light continues to shine through others. Friends of Lauren were interviewed on local news segments, recalling her warmth, intelligence, and humor. She had this energy that made everyone feel seen, one close friend said, tears glistening but smile faintly forming. Another added, she cared so much about people. The scholarship is a beautiful way to remember her, to turn something so tragic into hope. These reflections were intercut with images of students walking across campus, sunlight streaming over modernized pathways, and new safety signs reminding students to be vigilant but empowered. The Burk family also became advocates for campus safety awareness, speaking at university panels and local events. Their story, once defined by terror, evolved into a story of action and remembrance. News clips highlighted the changes at Auburn, emphasizing the increased security measures and the impact of Lauren's memory on future generations. Lauren's story, a reporter said, is a painful reminder of the risk students can face, but also a testament to the strength of a family and community committed to change. Through scholarship, advocacy, and ongoing remembrance, Lauren's presence continued to touch lives. While the horror of that night would never fully fade, the actions taken in her name created a legacy of vigilance, compassion, and resilience. Auburn's campus, once a backdrop to fear, became a symbol of learning and safety, forever shaped by the memory of an 18-year-old whose life, though tragically cut short, sparked meaningful change. The quiet corners where students once feared to walk now held her memory in every lighted pathway, every safety call box, every student empowered to move confidently at night. Lauren Burk's story, marked by tragedy, became a story of transformation, a life remembered, a community healed, and a legacy that would inspire countless others for years to come. The evening air was soft over Auburn University, the campus bathed in the fading glow of streetlights. Lauren Burk's favorite spots, the small courtyard near the library, the quiet walkway lined with oak trees, the bench under the street lamp where she often studied, were empty now, silent witnesses to memories that lingered long after the chaos of that night. Candles flickered softly at a memorial near the main pathway, small photos of Lauren taped to a board, each image capturing her laughter, her warmth, her light. A group of students paused nearby, whispering quietly, their expressions a mixture of solemnity and reflection. She was so full of life, one young woman murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. It's hard to even imagine what happened. Her friend nodded, eyes fixed on the softly glowing candles. But seeing this, it reminds you to never take a single day for granted. The camera pans slowly over the courtyard, lingering on the oak trees swaying gently in the night breeze. Shadows dance across the pathways, creating a quiet tension, a reminder of the fragility of life. A gentle rustle of leaves, a distant footstep, each sound echoing slightly, pulling the viewer into the stillness, the unspoken grief of those left behind. Voiceover cuts in, calm but resonant. Lauren Burke's life was stolen in a moment of violence, yet her story continues to echo through Auburn, through the hearts of friends, family, and strangers alike. It is a reminder of how fragile life can be, how quickly normalcy can be shattered, and how every choice, every step, carries weight. The camera lingers on a single flickering candle next to a framed photo of Lauren smiling, her light captured in stillness. The shot fades slowly into darkness, the campus quiet once more, leaving viewers with the weight of reflection, the echo of a life cut short, and the enduring legacy of a young woman whose presence continues to shape the lives around her.